Sarah and Angelina Grimke were sisters born into a rich slave-owning family in Charleston, South Carolina. Sarah was born in 1792 and Angelina, the youngest of the 14 children, in 1805. They lived a luxurious lifestyle in the big house pictured here.
Here is an early picture of the Grimke family, featuring the 4 oldest children, where Sarah is included. This is their father, John Grimke. He was a leading judge who made a lot of money, which led to the affluent lifestyle of the family.
Both sisters left the South to devote their lives to activism at a young age. Sarah moved to Philadelphia in 1821, and Angelina followed in 1829, determined to speak against slavery. Although they grew up accustomed to slavery, Angelina witnessed suffering that disturbed her, such as a young slave boy who couldn't walk due to slave violence, family slaves who were abused, and the screams of pain from a workhouse nearby her home, where slaves were dragged on a treadmill, suspended by their arms. She couldn't tolerate these events, and it gave her the ambition to become an abolitionist.
Both sisters were recruited as abolitionists after Angelina wrote letters to newspapers protesting slavery from a woman's point of view. They both moved to New York to work for its anti-slavery society, but anti-abolitionists often reprimanded them for their speeches. The work of the Grimke sisters was very liberal and was not generally accepted in their society, mostly because they were women, but also because abolition was not a very popular idea.
Angelina continued to write books and perform many speeches. Pictured here is the Appeal to the Southern Woman, which is Angelina's most famous work. Because most people in the South did not agree with their beliefs, the Grimke sisters were not able to return to South Carolina, so they moved to Massachusetts in 1807. One famous quote of Angelina's is, "If a law commands me to sin, I will break it. If it calls me to suffer, I will let it take its course unrestingly." This shows the women's determination for their cause, which they felt was a moral obligation.
Angelina was the first woman to speak in front of a legislative committee, where she presented her anti-slavery petition. She got married to Boston's Theodore Dwight Weld in 1838, and Sarah moved in with them, often working with Theodore on newspaper stories. Here is one of Sarah's famous quotes. "I ask no favors for my sex. All I ask of our brethren is that they will take their feet from off our necks, and permit us to stand upright on that ground which God designed us to occupy." This shows the woman's transition from supporting abolition to focusing more on women's rights in the later years of their life.
Angelina had 3 children, and not long after, her health began deteriorating. The sisters both retired to Hyde Park, Massachusetts around 1864. During this time, the Civil War was in its last full year, so Sarah and Angelina began focusing their efforts on women's rights. To support the suffrage movement, Angelina and Sarah tried to cast ballots in the 1870 election. However, their ballots were rejected.
Soon after, they learned of the nephews that their brother had with a slave, and welcomed the boys into their family. One of the boys married a black woman named Charlotte, who shared the sisters' passion for activism. Charlotte's daughter, whom they named after Angelina, carried on the Grimke sisters' feminist legacy after becoming a famous writer and activist. Sarah died at the age of 80 in 1873,
and Angelina in 1879 after a fatal stroke. However, the legacy of the Grimke sisters lives on.